question. Happy to take some questions. So let's begin. So my name is Santi Karasamy. I started a company about 13 years ago called Project Recess, and we've mainly been working with New York City Public Schools on helping schools integrate educational technology tools for teaching and learning. We've been focusing a lot on Google for Education tools. We're an official PD partner. Yes, you're getting CTLE hours that I will share at the end of this session. But we've also been helping schools use multimedia and helping them create creative projects. So today is going to be all about that. And yes, in April, we were recognized as the Google Cloud Partner of the Year for the work that we're doing with New York City Public Schools. So as we're waiting for more people to join, if you feel inclined, I would love for folks to possibly answer this in the chat. What does creativity mean to you? I always like starting my sessions with some sort of interactive question, just so we get the creative juices flowing. Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you for putting that in there. Yeah, if you feel inclined, there's no wrong answer to this at all. But what does creativity mean to you? Feel free to put it in the chat, and then we'll use those ideas to inform our work through this session. Myself, what does the creativity mean to me? I think it means connecting two separate ideas to create something new, creating something from scratch. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. If anybody has any want to share their responses to that, feel free to put it in the chat. Moving forward, so this is the agenda for today. We're going to attempt to go through all of these things. We're going to focus a lot on Gemini, and I'll explain why, but we're going to go over what vibe coding is, what Google Gems are in regards to creating ideas. There's a tool within Gemini called Canvas where we're going to explore how to create images, and we're going to go over some Adobe tools and Canva. And I don't have this on there, but there's a new tool from Google that does video editing. So we're going to look at that briefly. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing that in the chat. If anybody else feels inclined, feel free to share in the chat what creativity means to you. We have some really great responses in the chat here. That's cool. The Regents is upon us. So before we get into that, this whole session is going to be anchored in this idea of creativity, but also how do we enhance that creativity using artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI. So to make sure that we're all on the same page, what is artificial intelligence? So here's a definition taken from this really great nonprofit called Teach AI. They have a bunch of free resources online. I'm going to share all of these resources, including the recording and all the links and things that we go over today. I'm going to email them to you. So if you don't feel like taking notes, don't worry about it. All of this stuff is going to be sent to you. So Teach AI, they have this really great slide deck, again, that's available for all educators. In this slide deck, it explains that artificial intelligence, AI, they're programs or machines that simulate tasks that typically require human intelligence. Things like recognizing patterns, making predictions, and generating content. So again, for the sake of this session, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about artificial intelligence, and we're really talking about a specific kind of AI, Gen AI, generative AI. So again, I'm going to share all this information with you, and I'm going to frame a lot of what we talk about in terms of AI under the tools that Google puts out, mainly Gemini. So Gemini is, you can think about it like Google's version of ChatGPT. I'm going to assume at this point, many folks here have used ChatGPT to do something for them, maybe create a lesson plan, help them plan a vacation, what have you. Gemini is Google's version of it. Okay, so when I ask folks in the beginning what they think creativity is, here is one definition of it from this organization called the Creativity Project, but they're describing creativity as the act of combining knowledge and experience with imagination to create something new. And this thing can be tangible, such as art, food, or dance, but it could also be intangible, like music, humor, a poem, or an idea. All right, so again, there's no wrong answer. There are many ways we can answer this. This is just one way that I wanted to share, just to make sure that we're all thinking about creativity in the same way. But mainly focusing on this idea that creativity, it's taking different ideas, combining them to make something new. And it could be something as simple as an idea. So how do we use these Gen AI tools to help us with creativity? Well, let's explore. So that was what creativity is. Again, thank you everybody for sharing your responses in the chat. And I mentioned that we're going to be talking a lot about Gemini, and mainly because this has been enabled for every staff member in New York City. That's a huge deal. It takes a lot of sort of like security checks and everything to make sure that an application is safe to use for the largest school district in the nation. And Google went through this very detailed process. So now every staff member has access to Gemini. Okay, so the Gemini app that every staff member has access to. So when you open up a web browser and you go to gemini.google.com, it takes you to the Gemini window. That's considered the Gemini app. Okay, we're going to be going over how to use that for certain things. Again, it looks like it's Google's version of ChatGPT. I think many people are familiar with that layout. I don't want to get caught up, lost in the weeds on what Gemini is, but one main reason why I think it's beneficial for educators, New York City staff to use Gemini as opposed to, let's say, ChatGPT, it's privacy and data protection. Okay, so things that might not be talked about enough when we talk about these AI tools. But at the end of the day, ChatGPT is still going through the IRMA approval process in terms of how you have access to that and how that company handles what is it, PII, publicly identifiable information, things like your name, date of birth, etc. All this to say, Gemini went through this very detailed process, and the things that you can email about in your Outlook email, things that you can include in your DOE Google Docs, all of that sensitive information, you can use that information in Gemini to help you analyze data, create lesson plans, etc. And it's all that privacy is protected. So all this to say, yes, there are so many AI tools out there. Personally, I recommend educators using Gemini because it's safe to use. All right. So when you use these AI tools, if you're using them for the first time, or maybe you've used it before, when you ask these tools a question, you're sending a prompt, right? A prompt is, how do you talk to an AI tool? There are so many ways to talk to, that are the frameworks out there that recommend how to create a good prompt. Again, I've done sessions on them in the past. There's a bunch of different frameworks. Honestly speaking, I forget what the frameworks are when I'm using these tools, no matter how catchy the acronym is. So, when we work with teachers on the best ways to interact with these AI tools, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, or something else, it all comes down to how much context are you giving it, and you want to have a conversation with the chatbot. Okay, don't make the mistake where you ask a chatbot something, it gives you the response, and if the response is not what you're looking for, you get turned off to AI in general, and you say, it's not worth your time. I encourage you to, if you are using these tools, give as much context as possible, right? I am a teacher, I am a school leader, set that up and then include information about what you wanted to do. So your context and conversation, I feel like when you focus on those things, you're going to have a more successful time using an AI tool, any AI tool for that matter. All right. So there's this new term out there called vibe coding. It's essentially using these AI tools to create an app. If you've not seen this, it's kind of crazy how it works. I'll give you a demo of what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to switch to a different tab. And so here, I'm sharing my tab where I am signed into the Gemini app. So again, if you want to follow along, if you want to do this, go for it. Again, I'm going to email everybody the recording and the notes. So if you want to test this out, okay, you want to go to gemini.google.com. All right, and you're going to see a screen like this. Okay, so again, if you want to test it out, open up a new tab. You can go to gemini.google.com. So what is vibe coding? What does that look like? First, let me just give like a regular prompt on here. All right. So let's say, let's just jump right into it. Okay. So let's say I want to create an app that helps students learn the 50 states. Okay. So there are different ways we can do this. We can print out flashcards. We can have students memorize the 50 states, etc. So check this out. I'm in Gemini. There's a button down here called Canvas. All right, I'm going to click on that. All right, and I'm going to type, please create an interactive website where students can quiz themselves on the 50 states and their capitals. Okay, capitals. So very basic prompt. If I hit enter and Canvas is selected, okay, this is real time. I love real time demos because so many things can go wrong. So the reason why I clicked on Canvas is that it makes you see this split window of what you're doing. Okay, so you have your Gemini chat on the left side and then the AI creation on the right side. So what this is doing, what this is doing, it's creating code in the background and it created this quiz. So that what took 20 seconds. It created this interactive that I could share. So look, state capitals. What's the capital of North Dakota? Oh man, no multiple choice. I don't I don't know what it is. I'm gonna type in a purposely wrong answer because I don't know the right answer. I'm gonna say Chicago. All right. Submit answer. It's incorrect. Oh look, there's a show answer button. Bismarck. Props to you if you knew that. What's the capital of Alaska? Okay, this one I do know. Feel free to put it in the chat if you know what the capital of Alaska is. I'll give it 3 seconds and then I'll go for it. All right. If you don't want to put in the chat, that's fine. All right, capital of Alaska. Okay, Brian, thank you. Coming to save us. Juneau. Submit answer. Correct. Okay. So again, this built an interactive quiz that you could send to your students today. And it only did it in what, like 10, 15 seconds. So up here, it says that's the preview window. That's the interactive. On the top, on the left of that, it says code. I don't have a computer science coding background, but this created this for me. If I click on code, this is the code of what I created. So if you are, in a position where you're teaching coding either to your students or yourself, this gives you an idea of how this was made. Okay, you can go down. Here's the training data, so it has the state and the capital. So this gives you a peek under the hood of what an interactive like this looks like. And so then a question is, how do you share this? You could copy this code and you can put it on a Google site to share with your students. And this works with anything. This works with anything. So let's say you're not doing state capitals. Let's say I'm going back to the chat here on the left side. Now update this to quiz students on, I don't know, let's say, solar system vocab. Okay. Again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Deanna, as that's coding itself, I'm going to read the chat. Can you input the standards for each topic to make it more aligned? Yes, you can. So again, going back to what I was saying, you want to give this as much context as possible. I'm just giving it like very basic prompts just for time. But you see there's a plus here. You can add files to your prompt. So we've worked with schools in the, last week where we're uploading, rubrics, different standards, and then we're saying, hey, create this, but have the questions be aligned to this attached resource. You can do that. It's all what I truly appreciate about these tools is that they are incredibly customizable. Just like a Google Doc, it's a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want with it. It's kind of the same thing with Gemini. So I updated this solar system vocabulary quiz. What is a nebula? I have no idea. I'm just going to click show answer. Cloud of gas. Whoops. Okay, so look, it's like showing the answer, but then it's like taking it away. These are not going to work perfectly, but they work. And then you can go back and forth. You can say, hey, this text box is cutting off the, you know, the answer, make the text box bigger. So you can go back and forth. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a completely new way of computer programming. Again, it's called vibe coding because you're going off the vibes, bro. You're going off the vibes of like what you want to see this look like, which is, it's all so new. That term came out like 3 months ago, and it's like changing. It's really providing more access to people who have no or limited background in computer science, and it's giving them an option to create something new here. All right. So again, all teachers in New York City have access to Gemini. If you want to vibe code your own app of some sort, you click on Canvas, you give it a prompt, see what happens. It's pretty incredible. And you can get super creative with all of that. So I'm going to switch back to my slide deck. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Okay. So again, if you want that 2-window look to test out the coding or even other things, like the Canvas view is a really great way if you're like drafting an email or some sort of like lesson plan. You have the prompt on the left side and you see it update in real time on the right side. Okay, so that's Canvas. Oh, okay, and here's another prompt example also. I want to use Gemini for creative purposes. Help me create an interactive writing prompt generator for my 12th grade English class. When they click a button, a prompt appears. So like that's an example that I did. And then again, so I put that in Gemini, I put that on the left side, I hit Canvas and it created this thing here. So it says it works here. I copied the code. I'm going to share it in the chat. I'm going to put it in the chat, you know, test it out or test out my code, test out my vibe coded project. Okay. I just put it in the chat. This should link to a Google site that should be public. Okay, Jennifer's having fun with this. I just created a slide deck, the age of discovery, the 5 most influential European explorers. Jennifer, thank you for testing this out with us. Kelly, great tool for subs. Yes, absolutely. Carolyn, you keep getting an error, then fix error. Okay, you know, Carolyn, thank you for bringing that up. Sometimes I get that also. Sometimes when you're creating an app, like there's an error happening. These things aren't perfect. They get updated all the time. Carolyn, I would just try to keep at it. Maybe update open up a new chat, update the prompt and keep on with it. Sometimes these things don't work. I have no other better explanation for that. You just got to keep trying. Because yes, I've seen that also. Yeah, you maybe submit it in like, maybe you want to chunk it out. I don't know what you're asking the system to do, but sometimes if I ask Gemini to make something, you know, maybe a little like complex. Let's say I'm asking for it to create like a simulation of the solar system, which it can do. Sometimes it'll get an error, so then maybe you want to somehow break that up. Okay, so you just got to keep at it. How do you share this in Google Classroom, Alana? That's a wonderful question. I think so. Again, these tools are going to get improved over time. I think the best way to share these apps in Google Classroom is what I just did. I took the code. So let me go back to my presentation. Hold on. Okay. So okay, I'm going back to my Gemini chat, right? So this is my interactive, the solar system quiz. Actually, I like the 50 states one better. So check this out. If I scroll back up, oh, I updated it. Okay. Sometimes there's a link that brings you back to the one. Actually, there's an undo button here. Okay. So in this window, there's an undo button. I just clicked it. It's just like using the Google Doc, and it brought me back to my original state capitals quiz. So Alana's original question, how do you share this to Google Classroom? There's no seamless way right now. So what I've done is like, you could go to the code, you could copy this entire code, and then I created a Google site, sites.google.com. Apologies, I'm going to be jumping around here. Okay, so I'm in Google Sites. I'm going to create a blank site. If I double click this area here, I can input things like text and image, but I can also embed code. All right. And then not by URL, you want the actual embed code. Oh, do I have the code? Hold on one second. I just want to make sure that I'm copying the code. Copy. Okay, so I can copy the code here, and then if I hit next, it's crazy. You can put the actual app that it built in Google Sites, and then you can share this site via Google Classroom. That's exactly what I just posted in the chat right now. So in the chat, I posted, a link to my project on a Google site. So right now, that's the workaround. I'm going to go back to my slide deck here. Okay, so that's the workaround right now. Again, all these things get updated so quickly. I would not be surprised if there is an easier way to share this with your Google Classroom. But right now, throw it into a Google site. Again, it's within your New York City Public Schools domain, so it's all safe. Make sure the sharing settings are what you want, and then you can share it with your kids that way. But yeah, crazy stuff. You can build interactives on the fly. I never thought that would happen. Okay. The next thing I want to show everybody, again, and if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. The next thing I want to share is this idea generator gems. Okay, so what is a gem? Gems are essentially personalized. It's like a personalized AI chatbot that you program with your own directions. I'll show you what that looks like. Why would you use a gem? A gem is really good for tasks that you do over and over again, repetitive tasks. So what's an example? So we were working with school leaders last week. We're asking them, what is something that takes up a lot of your time? Teacher observations, right? So we created a way where we uploaded, the different Danielson frameworks, whatever, to this gem. And then it took these like notes, and then it just organized it in a better way that a school leader could then continue to modify. So as educators, if you think about like what are the things that take up most of your time, maybe it's student feedback, maybe it's something else, you could create a gem that specifically focuses on doing that task. But then you customize how it works, how Gemini interacts with it. And again, it saves time because you don't have to add those instructions every time you're doing this task. So what does this look like in practice? So let me go back to Gemini. All right, so I'm sharing the window of Gemini. I'm going back to, I'm going to click this gem that I created. All right, the creative ideas gem for 6th grade social studies. I'm going to demonstrate how this works, and then I'm going to show you what the instructions are, again, under the hood. All right, so this is the gem that I'm in. Okay, so this is not your regular Gemini chat. So if I say hi, it's going to say, let me increase the text here. Hey there, so glad you reached out. I'm ready to help you cook up some seriously cool and unconventional lesson plans. So it's asking, what topics or themes are you currently working on? I go back to the same topic, I'll say we're exploring Mesopotamia. All right. So you put in whatever you want. And then now, because I already added like pre-generated prompts or like my personal instructions on how they should interact with me each time I use it, it's going to give me unconventional attention-grabbing lesson ideas, right? Mesopotamia's got talent. Instead of learning about it, students become presenters for them. All right, so it gives you ideas on all these things. Okay, I'll do another thing. Going back to the solar system now, give me ideas for learning about the solar system. All right, so, and this is all specifically for 6th grade, okay? Scale, model, race, core concepts, how it works, why AI thinks it's engaging, some resources, interstellar real estates. That's pretty interesting. So all of this is helping the creative process with your work, okay? So what does this look like? How is it giving me this in gems? So again, if I go to the left side and I click on these 3 lines right here, it's going to open up the side panel with all of my previous chats. And then there's something that says explore gems right here. So if I click on that, it has pre-created gems that you could work with, or these are the ones that I made down here. Okay. Lesson plan generator, teacher observation, rubrics, a field trip planner. But the one that we're working on right now is creative ideas for 6th grade social studies. All right. So so what does this look like here? Let's take a look. Okay. Purpose and goals. I'm going to actually reduce the text size here just so we can see a little bit more. And apologies if it's hard to see. Again, I'm going to share the recording out, and I can also read this out. So when you create a new gem, you are responsible for putting in the instructions. All right. So I created this: assist a 6th grade social studies teacher on gathering unconventional and attention-grabbing lessons, encourage brainstorming out of the box, behaviors and rules, all this, presentation ideas. So every time you submit a prompt to this gem, it runs through those instructions and it gives you, the output. Okay. And I'm not this detailed. I didn't create all of this from scratch. I actually, here, I'll start from scratch. Let me create a new gem. So if you want to make a new gem, you click on this. And again, we got here by going on a side panel and explore gems. So let's say this is for high school, okay, or yeah, high school creative ideas. So instructions, I want you to help me brainstorm creative ideas for my high school English class whenever I submit what I am teaching. Okay, so very basic prompt. I'm putting this in here. I'm purposely leaving it very broad because even if it's broad, the prompt, you can click on this menu, this button down here, use Gemini to rewrite the instructions. Let's see if it works. So I click on that. And it gave me way more detailed purpose and goals and behaviors and rules that you could then modify to fit like your needs. Okay, and then you can, let's say I save that, you can test it out here. All right, start the chat. So high school creative ideas. So if I say hi again, tell me what literary work you're teaching. What's something we go over in high school? Shakespeare, right? Okay, it might be asking more questions. Romeo and Juliet, okay? Focus on themes. Let's focus on themes. Okay, so this gem has given me this ideas, right? Modern retellings, debate, character theme analysis, theme soundtrack, all of this. Okay, so this is one way gems can help you with your creative process. It can be like a creative brainstormer for you. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Even like outside of the realm of creativity, like gems is such an interesting tool for just helping you streamline your work and like really getting those personalized responses. So if anybody has any ideas on how they might use gems in their own school, whether creative or not, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm gonna go back to my my slide deck and I'll continue. Okay, so here's some screenshots again, 6th grade. And this probably might be the okay. One more thing to add in Canvas in image creation. Before I get into that, like yes, AI is helpful. AI can help you save time, etc. But I also want to be, forthright and honest with everyone here that AI is also a double-edged sword. These systems are trained on every piece of writing on the internet. Every time I say that, my mind explodes a little bit because these systems like Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever, these companies have taken every piece of writing online, every news article, social media post, published book, whatever, and it included it all in their system. So a lot of that data online is rooted in bias because as human beings, we all have our own biases. And so These things show up in these tools, and people should be aware of how that works, and that it's even a possibility for that to happen. So bias in AI, what does that mean? When an AI system produces unfair or inaccurate results due to biases in the data that it was trained on. All right, so let's keep this in mind. So what would this look like in a creative application? So Adobe, every company has their own AI image generation, tool. Not just Adobe. Every system has it at this point. This is an exercise that I did like a few months ago. So I asked this system to generate images of a main character. I just put main character, and it only gave me images of men. Okay, so again, that's because of biases that exist online. As we all know, main characters could be women. Main characters could be not even human beings. It could be animals. It could be anything else. But this, in this case, it gave out these examples. So I just want folks to keep that in mind. You want to be mindful of that. You want to, update your prompt if you feel like it's not giving you the right information. But these AI systems are really helpful. At the same time, they could give us data that may be inaccurate or include biases, so just keep that in mind. That being said, these tools make it easy to create images. So here's an example. I asked Gemini, and this wasn't in Canvas, this was just regular Gemini chat. It all works similarly. I said, help me create a forest in the winter that I can use as inspiration for my poem, and it created this. And you can add things to it. All right, so here, I'm gonna switch back to Gemini. I'm gonna start a new chat, and I'll say, generate an image of an island in the Pacific. What happens? So you can ask it to make something. It's generating an image. Depending on how long it takes, it depends on how detailed you want it to be. It depends on your internet connectivity. So this is like, every time I do this, like it blows my mind. So that image didn't exist before, right? That image was created on the fly using images that exist online. Okay, and so like it gave me a prompt right here: ask for refined images. Try adding more details. Okay, so if you needed an image of an island, you can ask for it, in addition to Google searching, obviously. So maybe I want to say, now add a double rainbow in it. Okay, so you can say that. Wait a little bit. Let's see how an AI system would add a double rainbow to this image. Again, that image never existed before. It created it brand new. That's interesting. And it added another island in the background also. All right, so you can download this. You can put it in your Google slide deck. Very interesting stuff. Okay, so you can create these images and you can edit them. So that is like a very literal application of this to the creative process. Let me switch back to my slide deck now. All right, so know that you have options to do that. Adobe Creative Cloud, it's back. So what do I mean? What do I mean by that? Adobe Creative Cloud, things that include Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, these tools that are very expensive to purchase. We had them all. We had access to them for free through this special deal that Adobe had with New York City Public Schools. Then that deal was over. Then we lost it. Now it's back. Now we all have access to Adobe Creative Cloud again, which is exciting if you use these tools. Okay, so you can access this via the Teach Hub. That's the link right there. This is a screenshot when you go into your Adobe account. So again, when you sign in, you can download these things straight to your computer and start using them, which is pretty amazing. So Acrobat is a really great tool if you want to modify PDFs and things like that. Okay, moving on. So we have access to Adobe Creative Cloud, as I mentioned, and then there's another thing called Adobe Express. Again, you would access this through Teach Hub. So let me switch here. So once you're in Teach Hub, you have links to all of these different things. Adobe Express is on there, as well as Creative Cloud. I think at this point, many people are familiar with Adobe Express. I'm going to switch to this tab. But if you've not used it before, Adobe Express is very similar to Canva, and you can use this to find really great templates and update those things. There's a lot of AI tools in there. One thing that I want to highlight is the translation tools in Adobe Express that are really powerful. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so this is, kind of want to start this over again because I have a lot of different, see if this works. Okay, good. Okay. And if you hear my 3-year-old crying in the background, I assure you, my mother-in-law is helping him. Okay, so this is a flyer that, here's a parent-teacher conference flyer that I found on Adobe Express that I created. Okay, so let's say you're working in a school community, a school environment where you have people that speak different languages. Yes, you could use Google Translate to update this, but then that's a pain, right? You would need to copy this, put it in Google Translate, come back, paste it on here. It's a lot of work. Or you can go to Adobe Express. You can click on the translate button at the top. It's going to search this document for text, and then it's going to include this drop down of different languages that you could use for translation. So let's say French, Greek, and then let's say Spanish in here. Okay, but as you can see, there's a lot of different languages. Let's throw Thai in there. I'm curious to see that. So you just choose the different languages and you hit translate. Also, I didn't choose the drop down, but you can update the tone of it also. And this is pretty incredible. It translates it for you. And so this one is in what is this? It should tell you. Oh, okay, this one's in French. Let me, okay. And what's nice is that it still maintains the design of it. Okay, so it still has it in French. And then you can see the different ones here. This one's in Greek, Spanish, and Thai. Definitely recommend you still run this by somebody that speaks that language to double check that it makes sense. Or if you don't have access to somebody that speaks that language, you could, if you want to double check it, put this in Google Translate to make sure that it works. But this is a very quick way to include translations in your documents. Okay, so let me switch back to my slide deck here. So we have AI-powered translations. I just went over how to do this. Okay, now we have Canva. All right, Canva, flyers and posters. Let's see this here. Okay, so Canva. So here you are in Canva. I think the best way to sign into Canva is like canva.com/education, and then you'll be prompted to sign in with your New York City Public Schools accounts. So again, like this is a really powerful way to find different templates. If you're not a designer, that's fine. You can use this to find templates. Here's one on like a food drive that that I found a template. So if you're creating things like this, posters, this is really helpful. And again, how can AI help? I think for this example, I used Microsoft Copilot to help me create the text that I would put in here. So again, these tools are really great for not starting from scratch. Okay, so Canva has been super helpful. We switch back to my slide deck. So I went over that. Again, yes, you could also use Microsoft Copilot. I believe that is IRMA approved for New York City staff to use. So you can use this to help create the text that you'll put on these tools. And then lastly, Google Vids. So next week, I'm gonna do a deep dive on this. Today, I just wanna give you just like a brief overview. So this is a new tool come out by Google, that Google put out where you can create videos, okay? And what's great about it is that you can do voiceovers on here, either using your own voice, or they have these AI voiceovers that you can use. You type in something and then it's gonna read it for you. This thing can help you with storyboards, and then you have access to a really robust media of like stock, not just photos, but videos as well, and AI generated imagery. All right, so So again, next week, my last PD in this series, we're going to be going over this, but I want to give you all just like a little preview of what Google Vids, what that is. Okay, so I'm going to switch to this tab. So you can get to Google Vids by being in your New York City Public Schools account. You can open up a new tab, and then you would go to vids.google.com. Okay, and so when you go to vids.google.com, you get this interface, which is very similar to, you know, a Google slide or something similar. You can click start a new video, and then you have these things here. So you can record and share, you can upload and share something, you can start with a new template or a blank vid. Okay, so what would that look like? So let's say I start with a template. I use this a lot. So let's say you wanted to make a welcome video for your school. All right, so you would insert all scenes over here. All right. Sorry if you hear my son crying in the background. He'll be all right. He'll be all right. So welcome to our school. So if I hit play, so what's interesting is that like it already created this template for what this intro to a school video would look like. And so you could just edit this like you would like a slide deck, like a Google slide. You know, instead of welcome to our school, you change it to welcome to you know, PS 354, you know, or whatever school you have. And then what's nice also, can you add translation to this? Let me test that out. Hold on one second. So let me just show one more thing. So let's say this video that was already placed in here, let's say this video wasn't relevant to your school, you could click on it. And then there's a way for you to replace this video. Hold on, let me just click on this right here. Okay, select a video. Okay, so you click on the video, you can click, you know, stock and web, or you can include your own. Again, there's a library here, translate. Okay, oops, not translate, school. Okay, and then I can put different videos in here. Maybe this one's more appropriate. Okay, so you have a library of videos here, and then now that's part of your okay. So I'm going to do a deep dive on this next week on how you can use Google Vids to make videos. In terms of translation, I'm not sure. I would need to look into that. Google has some really good translation features built in. I would need to double check that, so I can send an update to everybody. But I would imagine there's a way to add translation features in there when you're exporting it. But again, that's new. You would go to vids.google.com to test that out. I'm going to click on the registration link. I hope this works. I've not been having luck with sharing links to the EdTech portal, but I just put a link in the chat. If you want to register for this session next week, we'll do a deep dive on Google Vids. We'll have a better understanding what the translation tools are. So I shared a lot of things here. Also, there's a new free online course that Google put out to learn more about generative AI. Okay, switch this tab. So this is a free course. If you're interested in learning more about using AI in your practice as an educator, I put that link in the chat too. This is a free course that you can learn or that you can sign up for. Again, I'm going to share all these resources out to everyone, and that brings us to the end. So does anybody have any questions about any of the tools that I shared today? I'll hang out here. Okay. Oh, I'm just going through the chat here. Oh, you know what? I'm also going to put in, as people are waiting, I'm going to put in the link to the CTLE Reddit Google form on here, and I'll pin this. Yeah, I'll add the link for all these things right now. Okay, so link to CTLE form. So if you are interested in 1 hour of CTLE credit, there's the link. I'm going to pin that. Kelly, you're asking, add the link for the free AI course. Absolutely. Let me just copy this. I'm going to put it in right now. Link to free AI course. All right, so I just put that there. All right, so go ahead, feel free to sign up for that one. Let me go through the chat here. Hold on 1 second. In gems, can you name your gems? Yeah. You okay, Carolyn, that's a great question. Can you name your chats and can you name your gems? Absolutely. So let me switch back to here. Okay, so here we're looking at Gemini. You just click on these 3 dots to the side. All right, so this one, creative ideas, 6th grade. If I click on the 3 dots, you can click on edit, and then you name it down here, right? So creative ideas. Maybe I wanted to add an emoji in there. Okay, so I do that. I update. Now this gem is the name is updated. Okay, and then you can do that with the chats too. All right. So this one, creative writing prompts. If I wanted to update that, you click on the 3 dots and you click. You can also pin chats. That's what I did with this one, and I can rename prompt gen app in Canvas. Okay. So you can do that. So you just click on those 3 dots.
Can you delete chats or anything like that sometimes to get rid of the garbage that you don't want or need?
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah. So, okay. So currently you cannot, which is funny. Currently you cannot delete your chats. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's because it's tied in with like some sort of history, some sort of something. But at the moment, you cannot delete your chats. So they're just there. You just got to scroll through all of them.
Okay.
But look, this is new. Oh, interesting. This was not here before. This is all like brand new, this search bar. So you can search for your chats.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah.
That's just that wasn't there before. We're all learning together. Oh, interesting. So you search, and then these are all of my chats that have include the word lesson plan or what I've shared in there. Okay. So you can try that out. I've submitted feedback to Google in the past where, I would like an option to delete chats. I think it's coming. I'll let you all know if and when that happens. Okay. But yeah, you just start experimenting with it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody has any more questions, feel free to put it in the chat or share it with me, and I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please join us next week for the deep dive into Google Vids, and that'll conclude this month-long, more than a month-long PD series on AI. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Kelly. Oh, thank you for that feedback. Thank you, everybody. Feel free to share this, and yeah, there will be many more virtual and in-person sessions that we're going to host on learning how to use Gemini. So again, this tool was just approved, 2 months ago for New York City. It's the end of the year. We're all fighting senioritis, both students and teachers, personally speaking as well. So by the summer, we'll have some things set up. Definitely by the fall, there's going to be a lot more opportunities. Okay, so thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I'll be around if anybody has any questions. Thank you, everybody. I will stop the recording now.